prosperity and nothing but joy and happiness. This is the story of singer Renee Diggs, who was also a member of the group Starpoint back in the 1980s. Renee Diggs was born on July 23rd, 1954. She was a singer and songwriter who came into prominence in the American R&B sextet Starpoint. Starpoint was an American R&B sextet from Maryland that began recording in the 1980s, releasing a string of solid albums, first on the Casablanca sub-label Chocolate City and later at Elektra. While the group's earlier albums, especially 1980s, Keep On It, were more funk than R&B, singer Renee Diggs brought the R&B elements to the forefront with her powerful voice, which had both presence and sophistication coupled with near perfect pitch and very pleasing tone. Starpoint's producers throughout the years included Lionel Job, Keith Diamond, Bernard Edwards, Teddy Riley, Ernesto Phillips, and Starpoint, initially performing under the moniker The Cindiana. Starpoint was initially formed in 1969 near Indianapolis, Maryland by the children of two local doctors, Coyote Adamo, I guess that's how you say the man's name, I don't know, whose parents had been immigrants from Nigeria and Barbados, was born and raised in Crownsville, Maryland. His father, who was a doctor, worked with Dr. George Phillips at Crownsville Hospital. As a result, a young Coyote was introduced to Dr. Phillips' 5 sons, Ernesto, Orlando, Lloyd, Greg, and George Jr. Soon thereafter, Coyote began singing with 4 other Phillips brothers, each of whom were multi-instrumentalists. Initially, Coyote played bass guitar in the group. After this foundation had formed, Renee Diggs came on board as the lead singer, Terry Holland as the new bassist, and Marvin Enos as the keyboardist completed the La Cindiana lineup. With so much musical instrumental talent between them, the Phillips brothers each came to specialize in particular instruments within the group, with Ernesto Phillips handling lead guitar and trumpet, Orlando Phillips on bass guitar, keyboards, and saxophone, Greg Phillips on drums, and George Phillips Jr. on keyboards. Additional musical contributors included Terry Holland on bass, Lonnie Allen, and sometimes Clifton Hoyt on congas and percussion, and Mars. Make It Right, group leader Marvin Ennis on keyboards as well. Renee handled most of the lead parts. By the end of the 70s, they had scored a recording contract with Cecil Holmes' Chocolate City Records, at which point, at the suggestion of Marvin Ennis, they changed their name to Starpoint. They released their self-titled debut album in 1980. One of the singles from this album, I Just Want to Dance With You, became their first top 20 hit on the R&B chart. They would continue to release at least one album every year throughout the first half of the 80s, scoring several more minor hits on the R&B chart. When Chocolate City Records went out of business, they remained with that label's parent company, Casablanca Records, for one more album. Following that album, the group signed with Neil Boardwalk Records. The song Marvin, Cliff Dawson, and Renee's hit, Never Say I Do If You Don't Mean It. After Boardwalk Records filed for bankruptcy protection, the group signed with Elektra Records. Renee Diggs and Ernesto Phillips also were romantically involved. Major success in the R&B soul market was elusive until 1985 when they released their Restless album. This album not only made them superstars in the R&B world, but it also brought them significant crossover success onto the pop charts with the top 30 single, Object of My Desire. I remember that joint. I was a little girl, but yo, that was the shit. Written by band members Coyote and Ernesto along with noted R&B musician producer Keith Diamond. The tune also became Starpoint's first of several R&B top 10 hits. The follow-up single, What You Been Missing, followed Object into the R&B top 10. The title track, Restless, was also released as a single and did decently on both the pop and R&B charts. The group embarked on a lengthy tour in support of the album, during which Renee Diggs became well respected for her explosive vocal abilities, with Greg Phillips also earning a reputation for his dynamic drumming skills, which garnered many standing ovations. Later in 1985, they were on tour with Morris Day, directly after big screen success in the motion picture Purple Rain. The second half of the Restless tour had the group touring with Luther Vandross, Isley Jasper Isley, and Atlantic Starr. At the peak of their success, Renee was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. While on tour, her condition became more challenging for the group at this point. She was determined to continue touring and recording and living up to her potential. She remained with the group and persevered without sacrificing any of her exuberant stage presence. In 1987, they released their next album, Sensational. While the single He Wants My Body became their third top 10 hit on the R&B chart, it barely made a dent on the pop charts, and the overall success of the album paled in comparison to its predecessor. They released 2 more albums before eventually breaking up in 1990. In 1990, shortly after the group departed, Renee Diggs recorded a solo album titled Oasis that wasn't initially released in the US, although it did see a release in Europe. Several of the tracks on the album were co-written by Renee and Starpoint guitarist Ernesto Phillips, a longtime lover. She remained involved in the music industry throughout her life. She also created the Renee Diggs Foundation for Multiple Sclerosis to help bring attention to the disease. Other members became involved with songwriting and session work for various other R&B artists. In 1988, Coyote was credited with co-writing Milli Vanilli's hit Girl You Know It's True. Milli Vanilli's accompanying American album titled after the hit single also featured a song composed by Ernesto Phillips entitled More Than You'll Ever Know. In 1989, Marvin Innes joined the group EU, Experience Unlimited, of the #1 hit song The Butt, Fame, and co-written and produced the group's last Billboard charted hit, Taste of Your Love, which was #2 on the R&B chart and #4 on the Billboard's R&B chart. Orlando and Greg Phillips launched international projects which still are successful to date and have been witnessed and enjoyed by fans all over the world. In 2000, Ernesto began working with singer-songwriter Terry Cole and signed him to his label, Longevity Records. The pair would collaborate on many tracks from 2000 to 2001. On March 25, 2004, Ernesto Phillips passed away because of a stroke. The Ernesto Phillips Scholarship for Talented Youth was established in his memory and has a tribute to his efforts in helping younger children to realize their ambitions of becoming musicians. Only a week shy of the 1-year anniversary of the demise of longtime companion Ernesto Phillips, Renee Diggs also passed away on March 18, 2005 at the age of 50 due to a heart condition. Her album Oasis was finally released in the US posthumously. Okay, y'all, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.